Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are finishing our TMNT 2012 marathon with season 5 of the show. This was kind of a short journey, but I enjoyed it and let's bring it to a close.
Yeah.
Uh, with that said, before we start, there are some noteworthy things to say about this season. So first of all, those who watch it know that this season is structured a bit differently. One, there is a new title. It is now named Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the reason for that title change is because there is no big arc throughout the season, as there are a few as
Mini
every
arcs.
few there are a few mini arcs with every few episodes set up to kind of close up a chapter in this show's big events.
Mm-hmm.
So you know and so the way we're going to approach this is that we are going to talk about each group of episodes as one big thing. like
Mm-hmm.
uh, the like the first four episodes, we are going to talk about them as one, like we did with the two parters
Yeah.
until this point. It only seems fair because they are kind of structured like movies, and
Yeah.
I think I'll point this out when we get to that episode. There is a three-parter in this season, which actual which actually premiered in Comic Con as a movie. So why not?
Mm-hmm.
And with that said, let's see if I have anything else on my notes here for this season. You know what? I'm just gonna say it now. That throughout this retrospective, I'm going to do this again for this episode. That I mentioned all the voice cast that we had and all the guest stars, and all the people and what they've done. And I think this is the time to say one final bow to Andrea Romano, who is the voice director of the show. If you don't know what she's done, well, she probably voice directed every show you watched in your life. But just a few worth-noted shows are DuckTales or the DC animated universe, like Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Animaniacs, Avatar the Last Airbender, and Korra, the original Teen Titans, Voltron. The list goes on, and we can probably do an entire outcast about her. But the reason I bring this up is because this was one of her last shows that she directed before retirement. So, and I think this was one, like she did a pretty good job, um, going out with this show and a few others afterwards. But still, Andrea, on the off chance you're watching this, thank you for everything you've done to this show and every other show you've worked on that I probably forgot to mention.
You've done a ton of
So,
stuff that I enjoy, so
mhm,
hats off.
yeah. Like, if you go to a Wikipedia page, that page is long, and you'll be like, "Oh, I know this one. Oh, I like this one." Okay, so Andrea Romano, great person, everybody. Check out everything she's done, but then again, you probably have at some point in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And with that said, back to TMNT. Other thing that is worth noting before we actually start is that the show within a show for this season is actually Space Heroes: The Next Generation. If the one in the first season was a parody of Star Trek, this is a parody of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, Wolf, what do you think about this final season?
The show within a show, or just overall the TMNT show?
The show within a show, obviously. That's the reason we're doing the
Oh
whole
yes, that's the only reason I watch this. That's the only thing I care about.
shebang.
Um, Overall, dare I say it? I think this was my favorite season of TMNT.
You know something? I had a feeling you were going to say that.
I think with the mini arc structure, I was able to get more into it, and I had a lot more of an enjoyment from it. And I think my favorite mini arc was the Yojimbo one, and we'll get to that one a bit
Well,
later.
yeah, we'll
But
get
I
to
think
it.
that was my favorite arc, I would say.
Okay, so we'll get to favorites and least favorites once we actually get to the episodes. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'll say this is my favorite season, but I do really appreciate that structure, and especially for the last season that needs to wrap everything up. I think choosing that format did it really well.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah,
agree. It's
it
one of.
really works well for them in the show.
Mhm. So big credits. You know, just a good season. Actually, what did you think about the new title and the new opening sequence?
It was different. Like, I think, I'll be honest, I kind of preferred the little rap thing.
Hmm.
This intro is kind of bland, I guess you'd say. It's not my favorite intro. I do like how it's done, like with more of a noir kind of theme, and it
Hmm.
kind of conveys the theme or the idea of this season as being like more, hey, here's the turtles, and this is just different stories and things they've gone through, right? Like I think it fits, but I'll admit I do kind of prefer the rap a little bit more. It was fun. I will admit it.
Okay, fair enough. I agree with you that I prefer the theme song as well,
But they still
but
did well with it. I still liked it.
yeah,
And you can
I
still hear
still.
the theme in the background of the intro too.
Yeah, the theme song itself is still there. It's just an instrumental and
Hmm. It's a
more
good instrumental though.
jazzy.
I
Yeah,
like it. I like
it's
that
more
jazz
jazz.
theme.
Yeah, I love jazz as well. So
You can never
even
go wrong with jazz.
yeah. So this is good. But actually, the one thing I want to point out about that they kind of do the total roll call. The Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael,
Hmm.
Michelangelo. They kind of do it with the turtle saying different lines.
Hmm.
So like I get Donnie and Mikey's lines because for Mikey it's Booyakasha. That's the catchphrase. So yeah, Donatello is I've got an idea. Makes sense. He's the he's the smart one. I don't get the line choice for Leo and Raph, honestly. Like it doesn't feel I don't think it sells the characters,
Raph
but
says
that's a
something like
nitpick.
sewer apples, doesn't he? Right?
Like he's like, ah, sewer apples, and it's like I get it that he's the angry one, but
I mean,
that's
that's the
not.
thing. He does say that quite a lot though, so I do
Yeah,
get
but
it.
still,
That's kind of a
okay,
line that he
okay,
says quite often. And what was
okay.
Leo's line? I don't
He's
remember
he's
offhand.
like now we're talking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
No, that
that
should have been I'm the leader in a really
yeah.
complainy, whiny voice is what that should have been because that's what he
Yeah,
says the most. That's what it should have been.
yeah. Something. I agree.
A really
That's
whiny, complainy. I'm the leader though.
so overall we like the season. Let's start going over the arcs. So the
Hmm.
first arc we have is the Cavaxes arc, which
This name is such a pain in the ass to write and say.
well,
I'm
I
glad
get
you're the
used
one who
to
has
it.
to pronounce it. But yeah,
Yeah,
Curvaxis.
yeah, and and this arc
You can never
is
escape dragons, it seems.
yeah. We'll get to why later, but this arc is gonna here to you put a stamp on the turtles' encounters with the Foot Clan
Hmm.
because Tiger Claw is trying to resurrect Shredder, and he's doing this using this demo dragon named Cavaxes, voiced by Mark Hamill, who, if you don't know who Mark Hamill is, I'm
He's
sorry,
Luke from
but
Star Wars. The only
so
thing that
yeah,
matters.
he's obviously Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars movies, and a lot of people also know him as the voice of the Joker in
Hmm.
tons and tons and tons of versions. Most notably, Batman the animated series and the entire DC animated universe, and also the Arkham video games. And yeah, that's Mark Hamill, and us How to Train Dragon fans know him as Alvin in the Riders of Berg Defenders of Berg Rest of the Edge show.
Hmm.
So yeah. With that said, so what did you think about this? By the way, spoilers. I forgot that part.
Yeah,
Oops.
we're in the spoiler section now, ladies and gentlemen. So from this point on, if you don't want any spoilers, spoilers start Now, so what
Yeah.
did I think? I like this arc. It's a good way to end everything, right? Like we have Shredder coming back one last time. We have an interesting way to involve Splinter, I feel, because we kind of see like Leo
Yeah, but
communicating with the spirit of Splinter.
yeah, and also in the end, with
Yeah,
all the
in the end,
ghosts
right?
like
Yeah.
coming together to to help stop the evil. Um, and also, I do, and this is also kind of a send off to Karai, which I like how they chose to send her off with
We
her,
do still see
despite.
her later, though.
Yeah, but this is like the point where she says, "I'm done with I'm disbanding the Foot Clan until I can bring honor to its name again," and it's a good send off for her. Like spin off with her, I'll watch it.
She doesn't
Sure.
really disband it, though.
I recall that she is,
No,
but
because we
oh
see her with the foot ninja that she hired later on in this season.
yeah. Well, again, just because you see it doesn't mean she's actually doing it. But I mean it in terms of closing up the turtles' interactions with the Foot Clan. This was a good way to make sure we won't see it again in the season. But just because they kind of mess it up doesn't mean it's not a good send
Shredder's
off.
version of the foot, at least, anyways. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
Tiger Claw does say that like the foot and him have made make a temporary, at least a temporary truce with the turtles. So Shredder's version of the foot is gone after this point.
Hmm.
And plus, you have Zever who leaves and Bebop and Rocksteady who also leave, and it's just Tiger Claw at that point left.
Hmm. But yeah, Tiger Claw tries one more thing. It's to use this demo dragon named Cavaxes. What do you think about him? Actually, I like his design,
Yeah.
and Mark Hamill is Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I liked it. I thought it was enjoyable. I thought he was a really good villain to change things up with, right? I do think, right, that this arc kind of ends a bit abruptly. That's probably the one problem I would have with most of these mini arcs, that they feel like they end kind of abruptly and out of nowhere. They feel like there's a lot of build up and they just don't have a good, really good, satisfying conclusion, right? Like for this one, Curvaxis or Cervaxis, betrays Tiger Claw. Obviously, that was pretty obvious from the beginning that that was going to happen.
Yeah,
And the way he's beaten is the way he's beaten is essentially by Mikey and Gum.
yeah. This is one thing I like. Michelangelo saves the day.
Yeah, but
Woohoo!
it is, again, it just feels a bit meh. It feels like we should have had one more episode in there, maybe, where like it's him kind of taking over and we get to see more of the ghosts of their past, literal ghosts of the turtles and of the turtles past and everything, doing a bit more, right,
Hmm.
in terms of helping them stop Curvaxis, and then
Yeah.
we finally beat Curvaxis, right? I don't know, like it's still fine for what it is. It just felt like it was a bit abrupt as far as endings go, and like I said, it's a small problem that I think I would say I have with most of these arcs. Little small storylines in season five that they
Also,
end kind of abruptly.
going over the episode list, though, I think that the third episode also feels like the most out of place for this mini arc. Like they're trying to get Super Shredder's heart, but at the same time, it feels like this felt like the most out of place.
A little bit, because it's kind of like, hey, we're dealing with the Don again, and it's kind of with Don with the mafia dude again, whose name I can't
Mhm.
remember.
Don
He's not
Vizioso.
Don Vizioso. Yeah, that's right. He's not that important. Who cares? But I mean, it's kind of he's back again, and so we have Donnie with his grudge that he has to settle things, and it's kind of this is a bit odd. It doesn't really necessarily fit with the whole. It doesn't fit as well as I think they would have liked for it to, or that they intended for it to, with the whole culty mysticism thing we have going on with the Demo Dragon and the Foot and Tiger Claw and all of that.
Yeah. So, with that said,
But we
good.
also do episode 2 feels a little bit iffish. but I think it does fit better because episode 2 of this arc is the Forgotten Swordsman, and that's
Yeah.
when we have Karai's old teacher back into the fray because he's going to try and take over the foot now since Shredder's dead. Like he's come from Japan, left Japan, and he's come to take over the foot and lead them and try and do what Shredder couldn't.
Yeah, this I like. This I can see how it fits, especially with Karai actually taking over by the end.
Mm-hmm.
This did fit. It's the
Yeah,
third episode that feels the most out
out of
of
place.
place, out of
I can understand that.
out of the film.
I would say
But
like
again, also great climax. Like we said, with the ghosts coming back, and this is the one way that we can show Splinter. So that's
I
nice.
don't. The one thing that felt off to me was apparently Bradford had actually died. Like I don't get it because all we saw was him just fall into the water. Like could he not swim out? It seems like
Apparently
he just
not.
it seems like he just fell in the water and just laid there and drowned of his own accord. Like why?
Well,
Because that's what it looks like. It looks like
we
he
brought
didn't
up
bother to swim out.
we brought out How to Train a Dragon, so maybe he has the falling into water mentality that it kills you or something. So I
Maybe.
don't know.
Maybe. But yeah, like, we had Bradford come back for a bit and obviously, everyone Kervaxis brought back to life. He was controlling them and he had complete control of them. From the very beginning, he was just waiting for a moment for Tiger Claw to lose the because Tiger Claw is able to control Kervaxis with a medallion with the seal
Yeah.
of the with a thing called the seal of the ancients. That's how he's able to control Kervaxis and get him to listen to him at least temporarily, anyways. But I think honestly, my favorite part of this was probably, I would agree, Tatsu, Karai's old master. Like that little small story of Karai having to, defeat her old master and
Yeah,
to retake control
because
of the foot and
that
everything. I think that was the best part. Like, don't get me wrong, the Demo Dragon Kervaxis is still good, but I think Tatsu kind of stole the show from me somewhat.
it's more personal,
Mm-hmm.
and because Cavapsis is something that was made up for this season. Because this, as far as I'm aware, this Cavapsis thing is not in other versions of the Turtles.
No.
So,
Well, I don't know.
the yeah, so I'm more interested in a personal thing for Karai than this demon, which again I like. Like you can get me to hate Mark Hamill. It's not possible,
Yeah.
but
Didn't
so
expect them to kill Tatsu in the same episode, though. That surprised me, I will admit. They beat Tatsu and then he immediately is killed by Kervaxis. I did not expect that to happen, I will admit.
well, there you go.
It was interesting to see that, Tatsu's blind and he was able to fight in a similar way. Like, he was exceptionally skilled and gifted being blind and
Yeah,
everything. That was interesting, too. Also, Shinny and Mikey together are still fun. There was a
yeah,
lot of good jokes from Shinny and Mikey in this little arc, and that was great to see.
I agree.
I like Shinny.
J-
Too bad she was introduced way too late to be of any kind of noteworthy character, unfortunately.
like there are a lot of people who will tell you she's their favorite character of the entire series. So,
Like I even I even read a thing for episode 2. Oh, Tatsu, so another new villain. Nope, never mind. Tatsu's already dead. Never mind, no new
well,
villain.
well, for his part in the show,
He's used
he did
well.
good.
Yeah, he's used well, I think. I think even though he's a very one note character for a very for this one episode, I think he's used exceptionally well.
Yeah. So, anything else, or are we moving on to the
To the next episode or the next arc?
next arc?
Anything else on this arc that I'd be willing to say? We get to see. I love the Dawn, right? In episode 3, blocking Rocksteady's Gatling gun with a dinner tray.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was dumb, but I enjoyed it. It was dumb
Actually,
silly.
I think this is one of the actually, as much as I think that the episode is out of place, I think this is the one where the Donnie is going against the Don's minions, let's
Hmm.
say, and he's actually using the fact that he's a turtle to avoid their attacks in a bunch of creative ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun.
Also, should mention Leo gets new blades in this arc, and he stays with these new blades for the rest of the season. Like they're not exactly like
Hmm.
new blades, but they have new handles. I don't know if you noticed, but his regular
Yeah,
sword blade handles are like those
I'm not
square
sure.
red and gold
Yeah.
ones. The new ones he gets are black, much smaller, much more slimmer. I like them a lot better. It's just a nice little detail thing. Like we've seen a lot of their weapons get
Well,
broken a lot, and he finally changed his out. It's nice. It's a neat little detail thing.
yeah. Now that you know Splinter is actually gone, so yeah, this is like a visual way to say he's the leader.
Mm-hmm.
With that said,
Yeah.
the next.
Well, let me finish. You want to talk
Okay,
about? You wanted me to talk about this. So I'm going to talk about everything I wrote down with this arc, my friend.
go ahead. Go ahead.
um, I like the Ghostbusters reference in the last episode of this arc, End Times.
Of
That
course.
was a funny little thing. There's also, like I said, in episode 4 of this arc, there is another Best Turtles movie joke.
You know something? I don't remember this one.
I don't
Remind me,
remember.
please.
I don't remember exactly what it was said, but I think it was another Megan Fox joke, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it
You
was
know what?
because they questioned that Mikey saw or had like shared I think it was a taco or something like that with Megan Fox or a pizza or something like that, and he says, "Yes,
Yeah.
I did." I guess that's a movie thing that happens that he shares
Uh,
something with Megan Fox on a rooftop.
it's more a joke that Megan Fox plays April in these movies because
Mm-hmm.
this because you know
um,
what? I'll give her credit. In the first one, she tries. She
something I
can't act, but she tries.
something I want to like. I liked the ending with Splinter here. It was really good with his spirit and everything, and everyone kind of getting to see that and have their moment with him. And the last thing I'll say for this arc, I really like the ending for this little arc where we get everyone kind of standing on the rooftop and you have Karai saying like, "Hey, let's just enjoy this moment for a little bit longer." Right? And you just
Yeah.
kind of see the sunset behind them. That's how season 4 should have ended.
Mhm.
Like if you would have given me this ending for the ending of season 4, I would have said this was good. This was perfect.
Well, because obviously the ending of season four kind of led up to this,
Yeah,
so
it did, and I don't think they should have done that. I think they should have had season 4 lead up to the ending, this ending, and that would have said like, "Hey, this is this story of the turtles. It's done now. This section of their lives is completely done and over." Right? Like, yeah, they might have adventures after this, but this part of them is finished. I think that would have been way more interesting and way more enjoyable, and it would have just
could
finished out season 4 really well, in my opinion.
yeah. Okay, fair enough.
But now we can move on to the next little. This one's a two-parter actually. It's a smaller
Yeah,
arc.
so our next arc is When Worlds Collide, which is a two-parter, and this little mini arc is gonna here to sum up the entire all the space adventures that the turtles had in the previous season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll say already I have one complaint about this, and that's that for something that's supposed to wrap up all the space adventures, no mention of the fugitoids. Even though we know he basically survived, he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come back. This is my biggest problem with this two-parter.
Or of the past turtles that are out there exploring with past Fugitoid right now.
Mhm.
No mention of any of that because what if they decide they want to come back to Earth? You know?
Well, but they're in the past, so that's eh. You
Eh.
know
Okay.
when the when the neutralizer and the Salt Commander and Mona Lisa are coming to Earth, the other turtles are back in the past meeting them. So this is technically not going on at the same time. And oh my god, time travel is bullshit. But whatever.
That's not how it works. But anyways, still fuck that time travel thing up. But anyways, I like this little mini arc, this little two-parter. It's fun until we see Lord Drag back. Oh,
Yeah. I was so ready for like because I was sure like okay, Wolf
But
is not going to be happy to see this guy back,
we do get the
but
neutralizer back, and we do apparently he has electric powers now. This was actually I liked this two-parter I liked from Mikey. Mikey did a
yeah,
really well here. I thought he was really good here. I really enjoyed this for Mikey's bit because the neutralizer supposedly destroys Mikey, and Mikey comes back with electric powers, with lightning powers of his own. Essentially, this is Avatar, but with TMNT
yeah.
because we have we don't necessarily have firebenders, but we have lightning benders, and April's a waterbender for a bit.
Well, Katara, so
Mm-hmm.
same voice actors as we mentioned,
Yeah,
but yeah. So I
so
will
she
say
has to
this.
bend water at some point.
Mhm. So I love Mikey in this,
Mm-hmm.
but then again, looking back at this two powder, this is really the only part I really enjoyed about this two powder. Not that it's bad, but it's
Well,
just I think this is the weaker part of this season for me.
I would say so too, but I did enjoy the Salamandrians with Mike with Raph and Mona Lisa, right? Or
Yeah,
Githba.
actually, how cool it is that that Raph sees all of his brothers with their supposed love interests actually getting along and can talk to one another, and his girlfriend is out there in space.
Not anymore.
That's
She's on Earth now.
Yeah, but
Although,
before this happens,
considering how
though,
you had me watch this season, I guess she's gone now. So, but we'll get to that later.
we'll get to this part later. Don't jump the shark. Don't jump the shark. Not yet.
um,
Okay, but
Another little joke that I loved about this little two-parter was Leo makes fun of Raph's taste. I love the look Karai gives him.
yeah.
That was funny. I enjoyed that. I see what you're doing there, animators. I see.
Well, and it is kind of fun that despite the entire thing that Raika set out to rebuild the Foot Clan, and she's not really doing this in this episode. I do like that they give her a bit more of just allow her to be a teenager for once,
Yeah,
and actually have those small moments.
yeah.
Thank you. That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, for what this two-parter does, like, I do agree. I think it's probably the weakest bit of the season, but it still does it well, right? Like, for this being the
Hmm.
weakest part of the season, I think it says something that this is still overall my favorite season.
Yeah, and with that being said, I do like seeing the Salamandrians again. I like
Yeah,
seeing the Neutralizer again. Drag. I accept the fact that we will never see him again and that he was pathetically defeated. So, yeah,
yay
that's
for him finally being gone. I don't know, like it worked for what it is, but it's too bad it had to be Dreg.
yeah.
Could have been anything else, but we had to go with Dreg. Could have at least brought Ron Perlman back for an episode here. Would have been great to see him again. But no,
Well,
just Drag. Or even David Tennant, the Fugitoid, would have been even better, but no, just
yeah,
Drag.
yeah. That's my main problem with this. That for being such a big part of the Turtle Space Adventures, the Fugitoid I think deserve to be in this part. But whatever, you can't win it all.
I mean, again, like I said, for what it is, it's okay. Not my favorite, but okay.
Well, anything else you want to say about the two part? Oh,
Not this one. And this is, by the way, the title of this two-parter is When Worlds Collide.
yes, I mentioned that.
Oh, I didn't remember if you did. That's episode 5 and 6 for those wanting to keep track.
Hmm.
So,
So,
moving on to our next
moving
little
on.
3-episode arc.
So,
Episodes
the
7,
next
8, and 9.
Yeah, so the next arc is a trilogy, which is basically the Usagi Yojimbo trilogy. So, to those of you who don't know, Usagi Yojimbo um, is a comic book series that's created by Stan Saki. And ever since the comics, other adaptations of the Turtles, this series always had some sort of crossover with TMNT. With you,
Hold on, wait.
so
If you do me a favor, what series now? Repeat that, please.
Like the comic book is known as Usagi Yojimbo.
Okay,
That's
so
his
this
name.
is so it's a comic thing. So this character's from a
Yeah,
comic, correct?
yeah. It's from
Like
a
he's just
comic series
okay.
created by Stan Saki, but he appeared alongside the Turtles, in their own comics. He appeared
Mm,
in all of the cartoons. So this is the show's take on doing a crossover with them. I think this
cool.
happened. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this, but I think the reason this is crossover with the Turtles so much is because the creators are friends.
Hmm.
I'm not sure about this though. Like, take that with a grain of salt. But there's a Usagi Yojimbo crossover in every version of the Turtles, so this is that version's
I'm
crossover.
I'm not going to complain because I think this was great. I loved Yojimbo's character.
So before we move on, this is good to So Usagi in this show is voiced by, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name, Yuki Matsasuki, uh, who
Uh,
who who
do you mean?
played.
Oh, oh no, never mind. Ignore me.
Yeah, he played the Walt Nodi role of Hemaisa is Kenji Matsatu in the Pink Panther 2. And note that I said Pink Panther, not Black Panther. We're not there yet. Because I know someone is going to. So, and in this arc, he's protecting a child, like a child heir named Kintaru, voiced by Ivan Kishimaya, who is, I think that's how it's pronounced. I don't know. I'm saying
I'm
shit,
glad you're the one
but
saying them because I would probably butcher
yeah,
these names too. So have fun.
yeah.
Go ahead. They get to yell at you, not me.
Don't blame Wolf. Blame me for all the horrible mispronunciations. So he's known as Richie in the Loud House.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have this arc. So you said this is your favorite.
Yeah, I
Go.
think it honestly is my favorite. I love,
Mhm.
you know, Miyamoto's. I love Usagi's character. So we should mention,
Mhm.
right? The turtles get transferred to this new universe, and this universe is basically a thing of just nothing but anthropomorphic animals, right? Like these are
Yes.
that's all the characters in this world are anthropomorphic. Bleh, that's a hard word to say. Anthropomorphic
Yeah.
animals. So
Hmm.
Miyamoto is a rabbit who is a samurai, and this is
Yeah.
set entirely in like the feudal Japan era, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So like instantly he's honestly he puts off a bit of a Splinter vibe, but still different, still his own character, right? But I definitely get some Splinter vibes from him here too, which
Yeah.
for
The I can see.
and I like how, but also at the same time, he's not necessarily a teacher for Leo, right, or any of the turtles. He's kind of, at least for Leo, anyways, they're very much equals, right? Like they see
Hmm.
each other as equals more so than student teacher, which was really cool and really neat.
Yeah, I agree. I like Usagi in this version too.
Hmm.
The one thing I didn't like very much is the kid itself,
You know what?
but
I was gonna say the same thing, right? But they do have a few moments with Kentaro. Like,
like
here's the thing, right?
okay,
Like they're
so you know what?
doing well,
At first,
they're doing the thing right with Kentaro where he's this special chosen child who's been pampered all his life, so he's extremely annoying and very bratty. But there are a few moments where you can at least see a bit of character development there where he's not a bratty child, where he is something a little bit different. They do try to do that. And that's the key to doing something like this, right? Like if you're going to have the bratty kid who grows up to be this amazing warrior, right? You have to at least make them not bratty for a bit in some way, shape, or form. Show us something from them that makes us want to like them and root for them, right? And they do
yeah,
a little bit of that later on. It's not necessarily enough, in my opinion. He's still more so a brat than he is anything else, which is sad because they did try, but it's just hard to take that away in 3 episodes, right?
mhm.
Like shows and
Yeah,
movies
I
that do
get you.
this have done this type of story before take much longer to do this than 3 episodes, but they did do it mostly okay.
Mhm. But like I said, I didn't like the kid. At first,
Yeah,
like he does get better as
he
the as
has.
this trilogy.
He does at the very least have some funny back and forth with some of the turtles at times, which I enjoyed. And I
Yeah.
enjoyed episode 9 has a little traveling montage of them walking up a mountain. There's a scene there where Donnie tries jumping over something and falls, or walking over something and just falls up to his head in the snow. And I like how Mikey just comes behind him and jumps on Donnie's head and then goes over him. That was a funny little
Yeah,
thing.
and this is one thing I'll give this trilogy a note for. This is very mystical, and whenever the show did mystical, it looks amazing.
Yeah, did they change their animation style somewhat for this little arc?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this, but at the same time, it is like it's very. It looks like they went for more colors and everything to fit with the idea of like a Chinese and Japanese
Mm-hmm.
art style. I
They did
think.
really well with it. Like I'm glad they
Yeah.
did that because it really drives it further home and really makes you feel more invested and more. It makes
and
it
the,
pop
and the
more. It
fight
just
scene
does a lot more for it, and the fight scenes
and
as
the
well.
fight
Yes.
yeah, the fight scenes, especially in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
What's the name of this villain? I did not write his name down.
Jay,
Yeah,
I
Jay.
think.
Loved him as a villain. Very good. Very enjoyable.
Yeah, very good villain, and is and I messed up. I don't have the. I forgot to write the name of his voice actor, but then again, he did a lot of minor roles in shows like Star Trek, Futurama, and stuff. So yeah, that's something.
Let me see if I can find him real quick. He is voiced by Keon Young. Let's see if I can find anything that he's done real quick. He was Sensei on Greg Weisman's Young Justice and Jun Sato on Star Wars Rebels. That's what most people will probably know him for more recently.
Hmm.
Those are the two
Well,
things I
but
have. He's probably done other roles, many other roles as well, but those are the two things that immediately pop out. Um,
so
I'll
what?
finish up with one last thing. The little bit on episode 8, at the beginning of episode 8, of
Mhm.
Raph and Leo getting mad at Usagi because because at the end of episode 7 they ride off a cliff in order to get away from some enemies that are chasing them, and they ride off this cliff, they get somewhat hurt, but no one is badly hurt, they're all still okay for the most part, and they have this thing of Leo and Raph getting mad at him and saying, "We'll find our own way. We'll do our own thing. We don't need you." It feels a bit needless in my point because immediately
Yeah,
afterwards they're all right. They switch their tune to, "All right, fine. We'll follow you. We're still with you." A little bit
yeah,
needless, a little bit annoying, if I'm honest.
yeah.
But
I agree.
other than that, like I
But
think that's probably
other
the
than that,
weakest little bit of this little arc, in my opinion. I would say that's the weakest bit. Yeah, that's the weakest bit of this little arc. Other than that, I think
by the
everything
way,
was very strong.
when I said that there was an arc that aired as like a movie at Comic Con, this was the arc, and
Oh,
I think this one,
I
and
think
I
this one
think
works
this was
best
the.
that way.
Hmm. I
Like,
agree.
definitely watch these all in one go if you can, because I think they work really good that way. Like, it's just, I think this is, like I said, I think this is definitely my personal. If it's not if it's not my absolute favorite, it's very much, it's tied closely for first. Very much so.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So good arc. The kid is a bit annoying, but it gets better as it
Mm-hmm.
moves along.
It
Overall,
has a few
strong.
weaker moments, but overall, probably one of the stronger things I've seen from the Turtles. Overall, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Yep. So anything else? So
Usagi deserves his own show. Get on it.
um, yep. Probably maybe will happen. So
One day.
because I think don't quote me on this, but I think there was supposed to be a Usagi show at one point in time, but it never got made. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the full story, but not necessarily this Usagi. One of the
Yeah, yeah.
previous.
Still, it's interesting.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to see. Oh well, though.
So with that said, we're moving to the only solo episode
Yeah,
of this season, which is Lone Rat and Cubs.
I
Where
liked
this
this.
Yeah, so one
I will admit,
noteworthy thing. One noteworthy thing is that this by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles co-creator Kevin Eastman.
this was written by.
Yeah,
Okay,
he wrote the episode,
cool.
and also this is the show's final bow to Hoon Lee as Splinter, and I think one hell of a final bow,
Mm-hmm.
if I may say so myself, because this episode is a flashback which tells the story of how of the turtle, the Splinter protecting the baby turtles after they got mutated
Mm-hmm.
in this world in this world, all by themselves, and this is a great episode.
Mm-hmm.
I I'll get this out of the way now. The scene where they are in underwater and he's holding onto the turtles, the to the box the turtles are in, that got me. That's the other episode of the entire show that actually made me cry. This He loves these turtles so
Well,
much.
I think it's interesting,
Okay.
right? Because they do show at first like he's not exactly. He slowly falls in love. I like that how he doesn't exactly accept them as sons at first. He's just kind of taking care of them because he doesn't see much of a choice. He doesn't see much of a reason not to. Like he could have just left them, and he honestly, right? Like he talks in a way that like because it's Splinter retelling the story, right? It's Splinter talking to somewhat older turtle, like it's Splinter talking to
Kid,
yeah,
they're
the
kids.
kids turtles. They're not the teenagers you know them of mainly in the show, right? They're still,
Yeah.
although teenagers are still kids, but you get the point. There is a difference between younger kids and teenagers. But anyways, he's talking to
Yes.
younger turtles and telling them the story of their past and how they came to be and what he did when they were still babies and taking care of them, right? And I like how he tells them this in a way that says like, "Hey, I didn't see you as my sons at first. I wasn't exactly attached to you. You were just there and I was taking care of you because I just did so." And you see
Yeah.
through this little flashback, through this little story that Splinter is telling them, he does grow more and more attached to the turtles over time. And he
Yeah,
slowly
which
starts to
is
see them more and more as his family.
yeah, and again, when it reaches that point under the water, you can see just how much he started to caring for them. It's
Which is
it's
nice.
it's yeah, it's I love this episode. Really great. Actually, one nitpick I want to point out that when we see the few scenes with the kid turtles, what they did is take the voice actors and sped their voices up.
Mm-hmm.
But and doing that, you can tell that seeing how this is before Leo's voice box was damaged, and you Seth Green sped up is not necessarily Jason Biggs, but
Yeah,
it's a nitpick. It's a nitpick, I know, but at the
it's not
same
the
time,
greatest thing, but it works, I guess, for what they needed it for. But it's not the greatest thing. It would have been nice if they could have gotten, I guess, younger voice actors in that matched, but that's probably a hard ask, right? So again, it's not the greatest thing, but it does work for what they needed it to.
yeah, and it's creative. I
Overall,
never.
though, they don't talk that much, right? And this is mostly a Splinter episode. Like this is pretty
Yeah,
much, I would
like I
say,
said, this
genuinely a
this
Splinter
one.
episode. And it's nice to get to see Splinter apparently fought the Krang a little bit beforehand too, even though he didn't know what they were or anything like that.
Yeah,
Again, a lot of good stuff there.
because since the very first episode, it is mentioned that he came in contact with the Krang because that's how he got mutated and the turtles as well. And,
Mm-hmm.
like he did come across them, so it does make sense that he actually fought them every now and again without actually knowing what they are and what their ultimate plan is.
Yep, yep.
So again, great episode. I
Mm-hmm.
like it.
A nice little change of pace from all the different little arcs. It's nice to see this little small episode.
Mhm. With that said,
Now the next
uh,
arc.
yeah, okay. So I just want to point out, because if people are watching this and going on the Wikipedia list with us, we are not talking about the next arc that's listed and aired
The Mutant
originally.
Apocalypse arc.
Yeah, the Mutant Apocalypse arc, we're keeping that for the end. And if you watch the show and know the history of it, you probably know why. but we'll get to
Well,
this
we can
in
at
the
least
end.
mention a little unique thing. HC personally told me to watch this arc last. So
I
this
was
is what.
about to I was about to bring this up when we talk about
Well, I
the
mean,
episode itself.
I can say this little bit, right? Like HC asked me to watch this arc last. That's why we want to bring it up last. So we'll treat this arc, the Mutant Apocalypse arc, that being episodes 11, 12, and 13, as the finale for this season. So we'll go over other stuff before that. Then we'll come back to this last.
Yeah, so this is something that we'll get to
So don't
in
worry,
a
we
bit.
haven't forgotten, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, in any case, the next arc is like the basically the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus the Universal Monsters.
So it's yeah,
It's not the it's
yep.
like this. So this is like a
It's
send
the
off
actual
to.
Universal Monsters crossover and continuity time thing that they're trying to do done well because
Yeah.
they tried it and it failed horribly.
Well, basically, this is a send to the Turtles' time traveling adventures, and what's happening is that it's Halloween, and before we actually get to the Universal Movie Monsters crossover, there's a point because in the show's universe, it's Halloween when this happens, and the Turtles are actually debating as they should go as. And there's a point where Donnie says that he might go as Smooth Donatello. That is a reference to a YouTuber. You might have heard of him. He's called the channel name is Black. But
Oh,
the guy
repeat that. You broke up. Repeat the channel
oh
name.
Black Nerd Comedy.
Okay.
Like so, the channel owner Andre, he's a big Ninja Turtles fan, and he actually vlogs on every episode of the show, starting with season 2. So at one point throughout the season 2 reviews, he came up with like a hashtag smooth Donatello, which he would just go smooth Donatello, and then the showrunners actually got they noticed him because he actually hosted the show panel at Comic-Con. So this is an actual reference to him.
Oh, it's fun. That's a neat little
Yeah.
thing. Neat little side thing.
That's actually kind of cool. I wish that again people would actually notice us and something, but unless it's Rescue Riders, in this
That's
case,
your notice. That's. I mean, I guess technically they did notice us because the dragons talk in Rescue Riders. So I got what I wanted. I got my little nod too.
yeah, but in the kids show, whatever, off topic.
I got my
Back
nod
to
too. Obviously, I'm the most important Berkcast member. So says the show's creators.
it was the supposed mic drop sound from your end
Yes.
intended. Okay.
Yes.
Basically, we are. So yeah, throughout Halloween, Renette shows up again. Which, by the way, I'm kind of disappointed that there's no Renette in the Shinigami crossover because poor Mikey. But
Would have been a nice little fun
but
thing.
but on that note, she kind of takes them back to through time in order to stop Sevanti Romero
Yes.
one last time, and also how appropriate. Well, this happens. New York is threatened to transform into monsters by monsters. Well, how appropriate this happened in Halloween.
Well, I mean, this is our Halloween little episode arc. Like these came out close to October and Halloween, so it makes sense, right? Yeah, like you said, Savante Romero is back. We're trying to stop him, and he's come back in time. He's come back to the Turtles' current time from where he was locked away in prehistoric times because he managed to get away from there, and he's been recruiting, a bunch of different monsters to work with him and take over the world in New York and change the future, right?
Yes.
And one of the big things is that So Renette, as you said, Renette comes back, and we go on a journey through time to try and stop Salvanti Romero from recruiting new monsters. And our first stop is ancient
Um,
Egypt with the Pharaoh.
yes, we have the Pharaoh, we have Dracula, we have Frankenstein, we have the Wolfman. You name a monster, it's here, and I think it's a great Halloween episode.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it works for what it is. I see nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
I
Like
don't have too much to
out
say
of
about it.
all out of all the conclusions that we need, you can argue that we probably didn't need this one, but it is fun for what it is.
Yeah,
I appreciate of it. I appreciate it,
yeah, I think
and
it's a good way to bring Renette back. It's a good way to bring Savante Romero back for a bit. It's just a good way to kind of do some more time traveling stuff and just have a Halloween thing, and it works for what it is. I think the best part, like um, episode 14, we fight the Pharaoh. Not too much going on there. Just some good fun animation and fight stuff going on. They lose, obviously, so we have to go to our next timeline, which is Transylvania and getting Count Dracula on their side. I like the fact that Dracula isn't exactly someone who's willing to follow or listen to Savanti. And I think, and I like also that he thinks Savanti is the devil come to finally claim his soul, right?
yeah, that was funny.
Also, we get a
That
mention to Esmeralda, which is a
mhm.
neat little thing because I think that's an actual myth thing that her father was a werewolf. I think she actually has something to
Yeah,
do, if I'm not
the
mistaken, like the
in
actual Esmeralda in myth
mhm.
and fairy tale has a thing to do with werewolves, but if I'm not mistaken, but it's been a while since I've messed with that. Don't quote me. I could be entirely wrong. But we
Mhm.
do get a nod to Esmeralda, which most people may know of from Hunchback of Notre Dame. But that's not the
Yeah.
only thing she's, with or can be attributed to, right? Also, Rathbat is fucking creepy and weird looking.
Yeah, that. But as much as it is, I think
A
this is
bat body
one
with a
of the.
turtle's head does not work.
Mhm.
It's unique, I guess, but it does not work. But yeah, as we're going after Count Dracula, they end up losing that fight as well. Raph gets bitten by Dracula and turns into a half breed vampire, and they end up capturing Esmeralda's father, and he's also, as we said, a werewolf, and so he starts listening to Dracula as well because Dracula controls them. Then after that, we go to Dr. Frankenstein's lab to recruit the Frankenstein monster. I think this was my favorite part of this little arc, personally, because we see a lot of fun stuff going on here. I love the little scene of Frankenstein's castle gets caught on fire and it's burning to the
Yeah.
ground, and the mummy gets thrown into the fire briefly, and we just kind of see him standing off to the side on fire, and Dracula just looks
Yeah.
at looks at the mummy just standing there on fire, and he kind of just then the mummy just shrugs and makes a moan
Yeah.
sound. That was
Yeah.
funny. I enjoyed that.
That's another thing that it's not necessarily just about the turtles interacting with the monsters. It's about the monsters interacting with each other.
Yeah,
That's
they
also
play
great.
off all of them play off each other really well. Like Dracula, I think is the most fun one, right? Like he has the
Yeah.
most to do and say because the mummy just grunts and moans, the werewolf just growls a lot, and then Frankenstein isn't able to talk as well because he's still coming into things. I also liked how we have Dr. Frankenstein himself, right? Like who creates his experiment, the
Yeah,
Frankenstein monster.
it's nice to see that people actually remember that Frankenstein is also a doctor, not just the monster itself.
Yeah. Well, and I like how he, Donnie helps him work on the monster, right? And they do all these different things together. And, even Savante Romero helps him create the formula and everything, right? Like they both help him create the monster, essentially.
Yep.
And we have Igor, his assistant, getting jealous of Donnie. And also, like, Igor doesn't last very long at all. Poor Igor. He tries to help
Yeah.
out Savante Romero's side and just instantly gets thrown out a window. Ouch. Sucks to be him.
Yikes. Yeah. Poor guy. Poor guy.
Frankenstein I like though. Like him and Mikey got along apparently, so Mikey found his new Leatherhead buddy.
Well, Leatherhead is still around.
I know. We do see Leatherhead later, we'll get to that. But like, I like the fact that Mikey and Frankenstein apparently got along and became friends. And Frankenstein's the one who ultimately saves the day, right? Because he realizes that Dracula, who's controlling him, isn't exactly his friend and doesn't care about him.
Yep. But so overall, a fun arc, very
Um,
fun
I'll go.
thing.
episode 17, When Monsters Among Us, the final bit of this arc. This is our only four episode arc too, by the way. No other arc is four
No,
episodes.
the first one is 4 episodes.
Oh, that is right. Yes, 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 yes.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, you are right. I am wrong. Apologies.
Yep.
So we have two 4 episode arcs. Um, I liked that we see Ice Cream Kitty in this one, and he's playing cards with Chompy, I believe. That was funny.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. That the pets are talking to each other.
Hmm. Also, um, you left Mikey the idiot alone with Raph Vampire, who can control minds. Obviously, the smart thing to do.
Well, obviously it was done for comedy, so
I know. Again, like there's a lot of fun stuff here. Donnie ends up getting bitten, become a vampire as well. But like I said, Frankenstein comes to save the day finally at the end. A lot of fun stuff here. And also, like,
Yep.
I do remember you have them traveling back through time as they're fighting over the staff one last time, right? In this finale, they go to the different areas they've been to previously, and I like how Dracula and Savante Romero have like a disagreement, and Dracula's the one who ends up killing the mummy, right? Because Savante Romero sends the mummy after Dracula, and Dracula just disintegrates the mummy because he's like, you send an undead person after the Lord of the Undead.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, something here should have crossed your mind that no.
But again, like you have a lot of good back and forth with Dracula and Savante Romero. Like a lot of good stuff here. A lot of. I think this is more of the. I think this is definitely more of a comedic arc, more so than anything else.
Yeah,
But still
this
fun.
this arc is filler for all intents and purposes. That's the filler arc
The
to
entire
an
season
extent.
is filler, but anyways,
Well, you know
technically
what
the
I mean.
story ended last season.
Mhm. But the thing is that for what it is, it's great fun, and I would definitely if I celebrated Halloween, it's not a thing here to an extent, but I think this is a great thing to watch every Halloween to
Yeah,
get in the mood.
it's a good
So,
fun Halloween thing. Like it's nothing that takes itself too seriously. It's not scary. It's just fun Halloween fun stuff, right? Enjoy it.
yes.
You'll have some fun with it.
So with that said, we are moving on to the next arc, which is Wanted, Bebop, and
So
Rocksteady.
this was the finale that you actually got if you watched the show
Yeah,
as it released.
this aired as the series finale, even though Nickelodeon actually loved this episode so much that they released it on DVD ahead of time. But we'll get to the entire finale thing in a bit. But anyway, Wanted, Bebop, and Rocksteady. This is supposed to be like a shout out to like kind of concluding the turtles in general,
Hmm.
because this is the other crossover with the 80s that we get.
Yes.
And on that note, I do want to say we see the 80s shredder in
And
this
yeah.
in this episode, and people who watch the original show know that it was voiced by James Avery, Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Now the thing is that James Avery died, sadly. May he rest in peace. But the thing is that when he wasn't available to voice Shredder every once in a while in the original show, it was Jim Cummings, a legendary voice actor, who would replace him. So I thought they brought him back for this, but apparently no. That's Kevin Michael Richardson. This show's Shredder, but he does. But
He does
but he
really
actually,
well.
yeah, but he does really well impersonating that voice. So you know what? As far as I'm concerned, he's the true Shredder. Good on you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Good on you.
He does. If you would have told me that, I wouldn't have realized there was any. Like I couldn't tell the difference.
So that's already a great thing, and it's also worth noting that we see the 80s Bebop and Rocksteady for a bit. They are still voiced by Cam Clark and Barry Gordon, who also voice 80s Leonardo and Donatello, respectively. So, yay for that. Um, but yeah, we get one final big crossover with the 80s Turtles, which I like. I like it. This is a great way to finish things off if
Yeah.
this was the finale you saw.
it's a bit, the ending to this is a little bit meh, but overall I think
Yeah.
like if this is the finale that you saw originally, I think you got something that was fun here. There's a lot of poking fun at the 80s show in comparison to the 2012 show. Like they definitely like to simply to give a bit of a story bit, like Shredder and Krang come to the 2012 universe because they want to take over all the universes, and
Mhm.
so this one is features Bebop and Rocksteady a bit more heavily because they're in the 80s show, obviously. So the Bebop and Rocksteady
Yeah.
of the 2012 show are featured heavily in this little series,
This
this little mini arc.
this is something that I think people might have brought up that the 2012 Bebop and Rocksteady are like 10 times better than the 80s ones. So that even Shredder is like, I can't with this Poops. I need a new version of Bebop and Rocksteady to help me.
Well, I think it's right. Like it's fun because you see like old Shredder making fun of them a lot and calling them names like he did in the old show, and
Yeah, this is like the Shredder, the 80s Shredder is like a dictionary of
yeah,
insults.
this is
Like
true.
this. So, and I'm
But
glad
it's
they actually
good though.
brought
It's
this
really
up.
fun. It's a nice callback, and I like how you see a lot of the old characters from the '80s show having problems fighting some of the new characters, right?
Yeah, because
Also, I love the
again,
fact that Krang decided putting a help wanted ad for Bebop and for mutants like Bebop and Rocksteady in the newspaper was an okay
yeah,
idea, was something that would work, and that it actually worked. Like,
yeah,
God, that's so
that
stupid, but it's stupid funny. Like that was the
that's
'80s show, though. That was the things. That was the kind of
that.
stupid comedy the '80s show did.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I know I mentioned this in the last season, but I love Pat Fraley's crank voice so
Yeah,
much. I think
it's really
everyone
good.
does. I love this voice. I actually tried to impersonate it a few times with
Good
various
luck.
degrees of.
Hello.
I'm not going to do this now. I'm
No, don't.
not going to do it
Don't.
unless you want me
No,
to.
we don't. No one does.
Okay.
Save us all. I'm I'm joking.
Well, around my at least around my friends, I can do this and get a laugh, so I'll take it. But yeah, it is great to see the two versions of the turtles, cross paths again, and the 2012 ones are actually hyping the 80s ones. Face the new villains.
I
We
think
have
we got
April and Casey.
our first Wilhelm scream in this entire series in this little arc, right? Because I've not heard a Wilhelm scream in this entire arc until we get a Wilhelm scream from a robot.
Yeah.
A robot does the Wilhelm scream. Like that has
I
to be like an in joke with the '80s show. Did the '80s show use Wilhelm screams a lot or something?
You are asking way too much out of me. Do you think I remember? There are
That
like
has to be an in joke because it's way too specific. Because it's one of the old '80s robot foot soldiers that makes the Wilhelm scream, so it has to be like an in joke somewhere or something.
actually, I still
Someone
think
who's
that the
deep
best.
into Turtles lore and Turtles knowledge will have to let me know on that one because that feels like it's a reference.
I still think that the best use of the Wilhelm scream is in the Ratchet and Clank movie, but that's a story for another day. Because the guy who they used the Wilhelm scream on is actually apparently Wilhelm. So there you go. But okay, this aside, I do like it is fun that we not only get to see a crossover with the two versions of the Turtles, but we get April and Casey in this one. We get Karai and Shinigami. We get
Mm.
the Mighty Mutanimals. It does
Well, we
feel
don't get
like
all the Mighty Mutant Animals. Like this is one thing that kind of
we
bothered
don't
me.
talk about Pigeon Pete as we
No,
know.
but what about Dr. Rockwell? What about Mona? Because Mona Lisa joined the Mighty Mutanimals. Why not show
Yeah, and
her in this episode again? Why not show Rockwell for just a brief minute? Like have them there for a
yeah,
bit.
this. If I have a nitpick about this one, is that I would have loved to see 80s ref reaction to 2012 Bona.
Yes,
This
that would have been nice. Again, like there's
because
just a
the
few small
because
things.
they
It's not
actually
the
because
worst
they actually
thing.
yeah, because they actually has a Bona. But again, it's
Hmm.
a nitpick. The
Hmm.
episode itself is great.
Yeah.
Although, and another thing, I love the 80s Technodrome so much because of that stupid eyeball on the top of it. And I'm so happy that we got to see that again. I love this.
As someone who's probably more familiar with the '80s show than I am, what do you think about new Bebop and Rocksteady taking old Bebop and Rocksteady's look?
It's great. It's fantastic. Just
Fair enough. It
do
was a fun
do I
little
even?
nod.
Yeah, it's great. On
I
this entire thing, just It's fan service to the highest
Oh yeah.
degree, and I love it. I love it all.
I thought it was funny that all the hits Casey has taken previously, this is the first time they ever show him breaking a couple ribs. Like
Mhm.
everything this normal human kid has been through before, now you show him like, oh, he broke a rib this time because he got hit by Rocksteady. Like this dude was thrown against a tree, who hit a tree with his back and was thrown as hard as he could by another mutant way back in season 2, and that didn't hurt a rib or break his back or anything. But Rocksteady hits him once after he's hit him multiple other times before, and now he finally breaks a rib. Come on,
Mhm.
show. Come on.
Yeah.
Really? Now's the time you want to show
Uh,
this kid breaking ribs. This kid died 50 times over way back. Casey died a long
yeah.
time ago.
Well, I guess now he's undead.
I don't know what he is. The kid is genuinely not human. I will not believe that Casey Jones is actually human because he can't be, because the amount of hits he has taken previously should have killed him a long time ago.
Mhm.
So he's also a mutant. We just don't know it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So,
my little rant on that aside, I liked the Karai going after Shredder and Shredder sending the footbots after Karai and kind of mumbling under his breath like she's scary. That
yeah.
was fun. I liked that.
It, and it is fun because actually bringing up the previous time this was Turtles Forever
Mm-hmm.
when where the 80s Shredder meets 2003 Karai, and she mentions that she's Shredder's daughter, who's an Ultram in this universe, and like Shredder actually tells Crank, not much of a resemblance, am I right? So it is fun. It is fun that they always manage to get 80s Shredder to react to Karai, who's supposed to be his daughter. So
Mm-hmm.
that's fun. I like this.
Yeah. You
I
know what?
I
I'll
approve.
admit, Bebop and Rocksteady really grew on me with this little arc. They were a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Should mention, like,
Yeah.
it's because of them that the day was saved at the end, finally. Like, Bebop and Rocksteady
Mm-hmm.
decided we don't want to destroy the world. And that's what Shredder and Krang's plan was, to just take over the 2012 universe and destroy the world. And, like, Bebop tells Rocksteady, like, hey, what about Mom? And Rocksteady just has this entire thing of Mom, and you see this Russian, like, you know, communism
Yeah.
thing going on in the background. Like, that was stupid but funny. Like, again, a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff here, and this really kind of sold me on Bebop and Rocksteady, right?
By the way,
Is
in
this
the
supposed to
ending,
be a hint thing with Bebop and Rocksteady that like they're in a relationship almost thing? Like, are they trying to hint at that maybe?
no.
I mean, they have like a
This
lot of these two are extremely close thing going on, you know.
They're close friends.
Uh, mm, I guarantee you, that's not how many in the fandom will see it. I guarantee you, if I looked it up,
You think I don't know this?
I
You think I?
guarantee you,
There
if I
are
look it
people
up,
shipping. There are people shipping the turtles.
yeah,
Crying
but I
out
think the
loud.
show doesn't. I think the show really kind of goes out of its way to give a lot of material for that in this arc, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'll say. I
Oh,
think the show goes out of its way to give a lot of material to Bebop and Rocksteady shippers in this little arc.
okay, fair point. What can I say?
I don't ship it. I don't
There's
care for it, but I definitely think the show goes out of its way to give a lot of material for it. But again, like these two, however you see them, like this little arc, I think sold me on them the most
Yeah,
as
and
characters. They
again,
were a lot of fun.
great way to finish. But as we all know,
Um, I'll say I don't think this was. I guess like if you're looking for one big major Turtles blowout, this was fun. It was fun seeing the 2012 Turtles have to train the 80s show Turtles and tell them like, hey, use your weapons more. And when they finally do use their weapons, they realize it's very useful, and they get a big kick out of it. That was kind of a fun little thing. Seeing them attempt
mhm,
to train, fail at it miserably here and there, and then when it counts, they finally get it down.
mhm,
Some fun stuff going on there. But yeah, like I said before, having watched this in a different way where this wasn't my finale,
mhm.
I think if this was your finale, if this was your big blowout for the season, it's okay, it works. But I think the Mutant Apocalypse arc makes for a much better finale and
And
way to end the season.
now we're segueing into
See, see,
this.
give me a minute, and I can
So,
segue really well. HC, you're welcome.
because there is something to bring up though
Okay.
regarding this in terms of behind the scenes stuff. So, to those who watch the show as it like me, know that this aired in the middle of the season.
Yes, this is episode
But
11, 12, and 13.
now, the thing is that Ciro Nieli, the executive producer of this show, has confirmed that this was produced and intended to be the final episode, like Mutant Apocalypse. That was supposed to be the end all be all for this show.
Mm-hmm.
This was, but the thing is that Nickelodeon like saw the episode and apparently didn't like the way it ended and how it basically, what they did with the plot, which we will get to in a bit. But so to the point that not only did they air it earlier, they consider it non-canon and an alternate future. So
I get it, but bah to that. Like, I think this works really well for that. At least in the
so
term of the 2012 TMNT Turtles, right? I think it works really well for that.
so with that said, so you having watched because I watched it in the middle of the season, and I kind of got it that this is supposed to be the final episode because at the very end there's a drawing of the comic like Leonardo, which holds the sign "Thank you, Kevin and Peter," which is a nod to the creators of the Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird.
Mm-hmm.
Which why would you put this kind of thing in the middle of a season and not series? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also in terms of the people who worked on the show, who actually animated, wrote, acted, everything. This was supposed to be the end. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the end. With that being said, I think this ending kind of comes out of nowhere.
I would agree. I think this arc should have been a bit longer than what it was. It's not perfect. And like I think they could have done a bit more with it, a bit more build up. Like I watched this arc last and seeing it last, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more if it had another episode or two with it. I think they should have made this the longest arc. This shouldn't have we had two other 4 episode arcs, and I think both of those 4 episode arcs, or at least the Savante Romero arc, could have been reduced by an episode or maybe even two, and
This,
take those
something.
2 episodes and devote to this arc instead, right?
Something actually. I'm not sure about this. I just read it in a quick glance right now. Apparently, the reason this future existed, according to Ciro Nieli, is that this is the result of some of the turtles messing around with time.
Okay.
Like that the
But there's
future
nothing to link that. Like he can say it
yeah,
all he
exactly.
wants, but there's nothing that gives me an explanation for that. Because all right, so the entire setup for the Mutant Apocalypse arc is
Actually,
that. Oh, go ahead.
the setup is that years ago there was apparently a mutagen bomb, and now we're in like a post-apocalyptic
Yes.
Mad Max-like universe.
Yes,
where,
Mad Max. Heavy Mad Max inspiration here. Like this is Mad
which,
Max the arc.
yeah, which honestly, something. And before we go on, I want to say that in terms of cinematography and action sequences and everything, and how it captured the Mad Max feel, this was done really well. And moreover, I'm willing to bet that if George Miller were to see this episode, he would love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was done really well. I think this little arc was done exceptionally well. I just think it should have been a bit longer to get across a bit more of that feeling of to just get us across a bit more of information and more of that feeling of this is the end, right? Like that way the ending to this feels a bit more earned and deserved, right? Because the ending to this does come across as a bit out of nowhere.
So again, like I said, it starts off with a very Mad Max feel with because apparently the only two characters that we know of that survived that bomb, which by the way, watching the Wanted Bebop and Rocksteady after this, I thought for sure they were going to connect the bomb at the end of that episode into this, and
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong, completely
It
wrong.
would have
But
been nice if they did. Again, like it would have been nice if it was connected a bit more, like in some way, like even if it was just like the Savante Romero thing, like connect it somehow, right? Just give us a bit more of like how the mutagen bomb went off. I like how we see the mutagen bomb, like they give us a bit of backstory of Raph kind of seeing like the other turtles dying in a bit of a comic book style thing, and we see the mutagen bomb dropping. It would have been
which
nice if there
again,
was just something of like, hey, this is how this just there's a small moment of how that started, right,
yeah,
or how that
because
ended up
yeah,
happening.
but again, this is just a small and quick thing where all of a sudden you jump into Raph and Donnie are the only ones that are still around, and like
Mm-hmm.
Michelangelo for that point dead, Leo at that point dead, April dead, Casey dead, everyone's dead. All of these characters are no fucking more. This is, and I watch this and I'm like, you know, and this is something that kind of applies to the entire thing. I give them major kudos for the ballsiness. This is a very bold move, but at this and kudos, appreciation for that. But at the same time, again, like you said, if I had one more episode to just see how we got to this place,
Yeah,
would
that and just seeing like I think it really could have used one or two more episodes maybe. I think this should have been the longest arc in this season, right? I really do believe that. And I feel like we could have taken an episode from the Savante Romero arc or two and reduced that arc somewhat. Sure, it may not have been it probably wouldn't have been as good, but I could have done with a little bit less of that or a little bit less of the Demo Dragon arc, to be quite honest, to devote
yeah.
to this, right? Because that way we get a bit more of the beginning of how this all kind of came to be, and we get a bit more of the ending when they finally arrive at the place they're trying to get to, right? And we see that ending, we kind of see a bit more development there. And
Yeah,
I'll be honest. Oh, go
because
ahead.
again, again, talking about the signing up again, like imagine, like, because I'm told you to watch this last because
Mm-hmm.
you just wanted Bebop and Rocksteady before this, right?
Yes.
So how did you feel when you saw the ending to that, and all of a sudden you are in a Mad Max tribute, going like everyone's dead? How did it feel for you?
It was a bit of shell shock, but to be honest, I guess I kind of got used to the fact that this season was a bunch of different arcs thrown all into one, right? So I guess I kind of saw it as I watched it more and more, I got into this idea and mindset of this is just a bunch of different, I guess you'd say, universes all at once. Like this is just different stories we could have told within the turtle universe, right? Like these are different turtle
Well,
universes all going on at once or
which
something.
which
Quote
Nickelodeon
unquote. And I
would
know
kind of.
that's how Nickelodeon basically led it to be at that point, right? And which I get why they did it. That way they can sell more Turtles merchandise and do more Turtle stuff later on.
But
So,
I do
and
think
then maybe
though.
that's why this arc. And maybe that's like, maybe there's stuff to this arc that we didn't get to see that Nickelodeon hasn't released or wasn't, or didn't allow them to release, right?
Maybe
And
because
that's why this comes
but
off as a bit of out of nowhere.
yeah, because again, I you can believe what you want, because I will tell you that I'd be happy to call this not canon, alternate reality. This is a cool what if scenario.
I
But
think
honestly, but personally, if the creator of the show tells you this is what he intended, I'm going to view this as the end. I'm
I
sorry.
think for at least the TMNT 2012 Turtles, like I could see this. Yeah, this makes sense as the end. Like you said, if he said that they're messing around in time is what caused something to happen for the
I,
mutagen bomb
I'm
to go
not.
off.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah,
I'm not
if that
entirely
is the
sure about this.
case, I can see it. That makes sense. It works, right? Because they messed a lot within time. They did a lot of different time traveling things, and so eventually they messed up, right? And this is the consequence of that. And so the world changes, and we go through a mutagen bomb going off and destroying the world and bringing it to this mutant apocalypse era. But we've talked much about what we think of the arc
Yeah,
overall.
because
Let's get into the
when
actual
we
arc.
So the actual arc itself. So
Like you said,
again,
we start off with Donnie and Raph. Raph doesn't remember anything from the past. Donnie's a robot now because, the mutagen bomb mostly destroyed him, and in order to keep him alive, his mind was planted into Metalhead 2.0. Got
yes,
to admit, Metalhead 2.0 is best version of Donnie because Robot Donnie is best version of Donnie because Donnie's a badass as Robot Donnie, way more than he ever was
yeah.
as regular Donnie. So I'll admit this version of Donnie, the best version of Donnie.
And so they are wondering that there are talks about this great place
The
that
Oasis.
actually the oasis, which has water and food and everything,
Hmm.
which everyone is trying to find.
We run
But
into a new character. Like we should mention, we don't see April or Casey or Karai or anyone else in this. It's just
because they're dead,
well,
they are dead.
well. I mean, I don't know if they're dead. They don't never really say
They
anything.
are they are dead. You actually see at one point that in Raf's car,
Well,
there's a
you see
skull.
Casey's helmet.
Yeah, this is like this indication that Casey's dead.
I guess. I
Well,
guess.
I know that you think he's been dead, right? Yeah, for
You're
real.
breaking up
This
somewhat.
is, am I okay now?
Maybe we'll see as we talk
Uh,
more. But you were breaking up somewhat, so I didn't hear everything that you
okay.
said.
And so I said that
Nope, still
according
breaking
to
up.
you. Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. Carry
Sure.
this on for a second.
Sure. Okay, is he gone, ladies and gentlemen? Let's see. Oh, nope, he's back. Dang it.
Okay, I'm back. So
Let's see if you're
what I
better.
said, what I said is that according to you, Casey's been dead for a while. So this is
This
confirming
is
that.
true. According to me, Casey shouldn't have died to the mutagen bomb because it couldn't possibly have killed him. Because he should have
Mm-hmm.
died a long time ago, so he's already a mutant, so the mutagen bomb does nothing to him. So Casey should have still been there.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it is. I know
Um.
what it is now. Casey is the van that Raph drives around.
Oh,
That's what it is. Casey
yeah.
just mutated into a car.
He was a transformer all along.
Yes. That's why he never broke any bonds beforehand. He was a Transformer. The ultimate crossover, TMNT and Transformers. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome. Your fan
Yeah,
fiction idea for this
but
Outcast.
like we said, they do meet a new girl named Mira,
I liked Mira.
who she's voiced by the Flame Princess from Adventure Time. So there
Hmm.
you go.
I think she's a
Uh,
good replacement for Karai and April, right? I like Mira.
yeah.
She's a lot of fun. She
Mhm.
gets along, like the little bit we see of her, she fits in with Raph and Donnie fairly well, I feel.
Yep, I agree. For a kind of for a last teammate, she does good. She
Yeah.
does good.
Yeah, I will
Um,
admit, right? Like seeing Raph's body armor thing that he's wearing, that gave
mhm.
off some definite Gears of War vibes to me. I don't know if that was the intention. I don't know if Mad Max has anything like that. I don't think it does. So that
I
definitely
will
gave
say
off some
this:
Gears of War
the
vibes.
the only thing I watched Mad Max from beginning to end was Fury Road,
Hmm.
and which is the fault in the franchise.
I mean, it's
So
arguably the best one, so you're not
mhm,
missing too much with the old ones. The old ones are still worth it. They're still good. Not saying they're not before anyone jumps on me, but I would arguably say Fury Road is probably one of the best.
mhm,
Arguably.
yeah. Mhm. So yeah, where was I with this? Oh yeah. So we have this we have this thing where they're trying to get to the oasis, and
Hmm.
there is like a bear on dead wants him dead, which spoilers, it's
Oh,
Leonardo.
wait. Well, yeah, yeah, okay. Yes, spoilers, it's Leonardo. I think they should have left Leonardo dead. I'll be honest, I think it should have just been Raph, Donnie, and Mikey at the end. I think they should have left Leo dead.
Any particular reason?
Well, no, I just think like they had a good out for Leo. I think it would have made the ending a bit better. Because again, like I said, I think all of a sudden finding out that what is the name he goes by in this? I think it's
I forgot
Maximus
the name.
Kong. Is it? I wrote
Yeah,
it
yeah,
down.
that's it. Yeah, that's it. It's Maximus Kong.
Yeah, Maximus
Yes.
Kong. Like we find out all of a sudden in the final episode of this arc, Carmageddon, episode 13, that Maximus Kong is Leo. that he's just been severely
Which,
mutated,
but
severely mutated by the mutagen bomb.
which, by the way, called that.
Oh yeah, that was very easy to see coming. Like the second we hear of Maximus Kong, I'm like, he's probably Leo, isn't he? And then we see Maximus Kong finally, and that's just definitely Leo. When we find out
Yeah.
he's Leo, called it. That was too obvious, like way too obvious that what that was going to be. But like going back to my original point though, I think we find out so quickly that he's Maximus Kong, and he turns so quickly to remembering that I was a turtle. These are my brothers. It just feels a bit. It doesn't feel necessarily earned. And I think it would have been a bit
Yeah.
more powerful to see the ending of them getting to Oasis, having defeated Maximus Kong, and it's just Raph, Donnie, and Mikey and Mira, and they made it to Oasis, right? I think that would have been a bit more powerful and meant more, right?
Which,
Personally,
by the by, we should mention that we only hear that Mikey is alive as the Holy Chalupa
yes.
in the end of the first part, and in the second part, we actually find him.
And we see Chompy, and he's gotten big,
Yeah.
which is neat. Other thoughts? Oh, we also see fucking Ice Cream Kitty, because of course fucking Ice Cream Kitty lives. And Ice Cream Kitty's a badass, by the way, with that fucking gun. Because Ice Cream Kitty's just protecting Mikey, and they open the door to like where Mikey lives, and it's just Ice Cream Kitty just ready to gun people down. Ice Cream Kitty is best kitty, hands down.
I knew you would love that part, and
That was great. I did love that. And then getting to see, like episode 13, Carmageddon, with Ice Cream Kitty just shooting down some of Maximus Kong or Leo's, allies, right? Like, as they try and attack them. Like, that was just great. Like, Ice Cream Kitty is a badass. End of. And we see, I love how Mira gets caught, because Mira's the one with the map. She has the map. And Mikey's the one who created the map, apparently. And he's the only one who can read it. And I like how they say, like, oh, that old map I made became a tattoo. Cool. Also, you know what? I really liked Mikey in this one. Crazy Mikey was fun. Crazy Hermit Mikey was fun.
Yeah.
I'll admit. Mikey grew on me a bit. Like, they actually did him really well. He didn't feel... They didn't go too zany with him, but they went just zany enough, right?
By the way, I do want to say that how big of a troll is it that he apparently kept all pizzas, but all of them are rotten and
I mean, he still thinks they're pizza, so... He's living the life.
For Raph, like imagine if he sees pizza after years of roaming in a desert and yeah. But
I mean, he also drank Mikey's pee too, so poor Raph.
Yeah.
That was just a dumb joke, but anyways. By the by, thinking of that, we went an entire season, if I'm not mistaken, without a fart joke. I'm proud of these writers. Clap for you. You went an entire season without one fart joke. That is good. I'm proud.
Okay, there you go. That's the reason why. This is Wolf's favorite season. There you go.
It is.
No fart joke.
Donnie making the boop noise was also a little small callback. I think that was funny. Considering Donnie's very much similar to the Fugitoid now.
Yeah, I'm not surprised if this was supposed to be the reference, honestly.
Might have been. I like how, again, Mira gets captured for the map, and we have like this lizard clan introduced, and we have the Badger clan introduced, and Raph has to fight both of their leaders, ends up beating them, and they just say, hey, you're the leader now. And they all say, all right, let's go off to Oasis with you guys. And all of a sudden, like, the lizard people, the lizard and badger, he has his lizard and badger followers, and they're all following him. And, again, Leo comes in, and they're all like, all right, we'll help you stop him. And they all just get destroyed almost instantly. Like, these guys were set up to be these big villains, and they last no time flat. I love how the lizard leader goes out with, like...
But with that said...
the badger leader confronts the lizard leader, and he's like, you betrayed me, you traitor. And the lizard leader just goes out yelling, red stripe, and that's just how he dies. It's like, that was so stupid. But you know what? It was funny. I'll admit. That got me. I laughed at how easily this dude was supposed to be set up as this major villain, and he just dies like that. Same with the badger leader, too. He just dies instantly. Like, okay, fair enough. But
Uh,
speaking of this as an ending overall, since this was my ending to this, as I said before, I think it should have lasted a bit longer, should have been a bit longer of an arc. But overall, I think this is a good way to end the turtles story, right? Like seeing season four's finale, if I would have went into something like this, I would have said, all right, this makes sense as an ending, as a way to end the 2012 version of TMNT, right?
yeah.
I think it works really well for it.
So with that said, I do agree that the final thing we see, which is the turtles and Mira in the Oasis,
Mm-hmm.
is a like
It works.
it's a good place to leave them,
Yeah.
and especially when we see like that the final thing we see, how each episode ends with like the CG frame turning into a drawing. Then the final thing we see is like the turtles as they're supposed to look, taking one final picture with Splinter.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, which
It's good.
it is a nice bookend because the show also started with just the turtles and Splinter.
Yeah.
So this is nice, but at the same time, as much as it's a good place to live, and as much as I have credit them for the ballsiness, what the again? I'm just looking at this, and it's like, how did the entire show lead up to this? The, that connection is missing, and
Yeah.
that's a big problem for me.
The connection is missing. The ending feels a bit too rushed and doesn't feel as earned as it could have been. Like, minus those two problems, it's really good, but with those two problems, it hurts it overall, right? And again, maybe this was the fault of Nickelodeon. Maybe they thought this was good enough. There could be any number of things that could have gone on here that could have messed this up somewhat, right? That we don't know about.
Because I have a theory, and this is not confirmed, this is not
Mm-hmm.
anything, I'm just theorizing that
Yeah.
every season until this point had 26 episodes, and this season only had 20.
Mm-hmm.
And considering Sierra O'Neil wanted to end the show with this, but Nickelodeon then intervened and said, "Nah, it's an alternate future." Now, I think something was missing. I
It
think
could have been.
something. I think something was cut. Not necessarily that it would fill another 6 episodes, but something was left on the cutting room floor. Most definitely.
You'll have to train to become a ninja yourself to break into Nickelodeon headquarters and steal the Lost Turtle episodes.
If they still have it somewhere, but
There's a vault
but
somewhere deep in Nickelodeon headquarters.
So with that said, the reason, and so I told you the reason why I wanted to watch this one last. So let me ask you this: Do you prefer this as the actual series finale or as an alternate universe?
I think I've been pretty clear. I think I do. I think I would prefer this if you worked out the connection and you worked out a bit more of the ending. I think I would absolutely prefer this as a season finale. Based on just what we got, I think it works for a season finale, but it's not the best. Like, it could have used a bit more work. But based on what we got, I think it's still good, just barely good enough. Like, it still works just enough that I could see this as a overall series finale and how it works for that. I think it's not the best series finale. I've seen much better. I've also seen much worse, but it works for what it is. Again, I think it could use some work though. So an
Yeah.
okay series finale for the 2012
Because
version
I
of
think
TMNT.
when I talked about this, that is when I said that Nickelodeon sees this as a non-canon alternate universe, and your first reaction was, ugh. So I think I
It wasn't.
know your
It's
opinion
more
on
like
that.
eh. I just don't agree with that. I think this works too well for them to see it that way. I get why they see it that way. I get why they did it. I don't think they should have though. You can
But
always
you know,
do new
which
TMNT stuff that doesn't have to connect to this, right?
Well, and with that said, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the current Ninja Turtles cartoon that's going on, that's airing these days, and it premiered only a year after this ended.
So yeah,
So, and there was like there was 6 years between the '80s show and the 2003 show,
Mm-hmm.
and there were 3 years
Wait,
between the
6 years between the '80s show and the 2003 show?
yeah the '80s show ended in '97,
Okay, never mind then.
and
Fair enough. It ended in '97. Okay.
there was a 3 year gap between the 2003 show and this one. So they did a pretty radical new take really quick. I don't see the harm in doing in actually going with this
Well,
direction and
I
expanding
think
it.
it makes sense, right? Because this series, the 2012 TMNT series, focused a lot on the idea of alternate Turtles universes, right? Like you have the comics universe of the Turtles, you have the '80s show universe of the Turtles, you have this
But at the same,
show's universe of the
but at the
Turtles.
same time, 2003 did it as well, including time travel
Well, yeah, I
for
mean
a
that's what I'm
season.
saying though. Like the Turtles has always been about this. Like there are alternate universes of the Turtles. There's not just one Turtles universe that everything is connected to. There's there's tons of different Turtles universes. There's this Turtles universe. There's the Turtles universe where they're working with Batman. Yeah. Like the
Yeah,
Turtles don't
there
have
are a
one
few of those.
set canon. So I think it's silly to say that we don't see this particular ending as canon to the Turtles. It's like, well, no, it's of course it's not canon to the Turtles because it's
Yeah,
canon
but
to this version of the
yeah,
Turtles.
but
Like
that's the
this
thing
version of the
though.
Turtles ends this way. There's no need to see it any other way.
That's and that's the thing though, that they see it as an alternate universe for this specific show, not the turtles
But
in
they
general.
shouldn't though. They shouldn't like no. But what I'm saying is they shouldn't see it as an alternate universe for the turtles in general. They shouldn't see it as an alternate universe for this show. They should see it as this is the ending to this show, which is just an alternate universe of the turtles in general. Like this show is an alternate universe of the turtles in general, right? That's my point. Like any version that you've seen of the turtles, show or comics, is just an alternate universe version of the turtles, right? Like
Mhm.
that's my point. This show had its ending. This universe of the turtles had its ending. A mutagen bomb went off and the apocalypse happened because of reasons, right? Like that was how this show was. That's how this version and this world of the turtles ended. Let it be that way. There's no need to say, "Oh, it's not canon. It's just another alternate universe." There's no really need to do that. Let it end
Yeah,
the way it needs to end, right? I think that would have worked way better, right? And let it kind of once more hammer on that idea that the Turtles universe is a bunch of different universes. Just pick one you like and enjoy it. If you don't like that one, or if you don't like the way it ends, go to a different one. Enjoy that one, right? Like there's plenty of different versions of the Turtles. And this show and many of the Turtle shows hammer home on that idea. So accept that, embrace it. So accept that and embrace it, right?
yeah. Welcome. So I think we had a big enough discussion about this,
Yeah, well,
and
we should end off with one final thing. Overall series thoughts. What do you think?
so I probably said it once. I'll say it again. This is my favorite incarnation of the Turtles. I
Mm-hmm.
like how they're taking everything that made the franchise great to begin with, and kind of combine it, but also put their own spin onto it, so it can stand on its own. It has problems here and there, sure, but I had a blast watching this from beginning to end, and I just love this show. Whenever people ask like, how could you make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles work in this day and age, or that all reboots to classic franchises suck, or something? I point to this show. It's a
Mm-hmm.
good show, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the right way to do this. So I have a major respect for this show, and it also kind of reminded me why I love the Ninja Turtles to begin with.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. So, for me, I can say, oh, it's finally over. Thank God I don't have to watch anything Turtles ever again. Ugh.
Sure.
No. Being honest, not joking around. I enjoyed this. Overall, I did enjoy this. I think it's not perfect, like you said. It has its problems. I've definitely nitpicked this a lot at times and was definitely maybe overly critical at certain times. There are definitely things that got on my nerves and that I wasn't as fond of. But overall, I enjoyed this little journey, right? Like it was fun. Like overall, I think it was fun. I think it did well. I think when it worked really well. When it slipped and fell and stumbled, you could tell, but it still had a charm to it. I think if you're a fan of the Turtles, I think you'll find something to love here, possibly. And if you're not a fan of the Turtles, I still think you'll find something to love and enjoy here. Like there is good stuff here. It's not perfect, but I don't think it needs to be. It works for what it is, and it's good enough.
Yep. So, with all that said, this is it for our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012 retrospective. We
Mm-hmm.
hope you enjoyed it. What is your favorite season? What are your thoughts about this ending? Do you see it as canon, non-canon? What do you agree with Sione Ellie or Nickelodeon?
What do you think about the
What do
series
you think?
overall?
Yep. What do you think about the series overall? You can tell us all about that in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is known as Berkcast Team, on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and more stuff's coming. Once we'll find stuff to talk about. So with all that said, I was HC,
I've been Wolf.
and we will see you with whatever we may tackle next. Thank you for listening, and booyakasha!
See you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Bye bye.